Today's Tuesday's tip is going to be talking about something that we don't actually talk about very often in our program. The reason being is because our program is designed so that all you have to do is follow us one step at a time, and then your painting comes out exactly the way it's supposed to come out. However, what we have done in advance is we have planned out something called the composition. The composition of the painting deals with about how you position the various items in your painting and where you put them. And this here is an example that I used to use to teach them the concept about composition. Looking at our example here, we'll show you a variety of ways that you can change your composition to make your painting more interesting for you. This is one of the most standard compositions that you could possibly have. It shows the ball with the light object theory in the absolute middle of the page. This is a standard composition and can be very effective when you want to establish a nice grounded feel. However, with just a few variations, you can change your composition and change the feel for your painting. For instance, what we've done in this example is we have lowered the horizon line to the lower part of the page, and instead of positioning the ball in the very middle, we actually position the ball here off to the left side. This gives a little bit change in the composition. We looked at this example and we see that the composition was created where the shadowing was placed on the ground. Using the exact same composition, we changed where the dark shadowing is now on the back side, which also changes the idea of the composition. Here's another example. In this one, we raised the horizon line almost all the way to the top, and we also positioned the ball all the way at the top on the left. This also is a change of composition, which gives you a feel of a sense that maybe the ball might roll down towards the far end of the front end of the page. With this example, we put the shading towards the bottom half of the page. With this example, we changed where the composition was going to have still the horizon line at the top, but the back end was darkened and the foreground was left light, and we also moved the ball to the other side of the page. This again is another way that you can change the composition. Composition, in simple terms, is just where you put something on the page to create tension, dynamic aspect. When considering composition in your painting, it all deals with what you want to establish with your painting. Do you want to create a sense of stability? Do you want to create a sense of drama? Do you want to create some kind of sense of tension? It all deals with where you position and how you position whatever the object is in your painting. And how you position that object will have bearing upon what kind of a feel you are giving the audience who looks at your painting. In all of the examples I just gave, the sponge was somewhere in the middle, but I turned the angle of the sponge into various ways so that you can see different angles. But more than that, you could also move the sponge over here. You could move the sponge over here. You could change it down this way. Composition is simply where you position whatever it is you're going to put in the picture, and where you put it, and in what direction you put it. When I put the sponge in this direction, this automatically points my eye to this area of the painting. And that's one of the things we want to think about when we think about composition. If I put the painting sponge over here, it points to this part of the painting here, which draws my eye over into this part here. If I don't want my attention to be drawn to this part of the painting, then maybe positioning the sponge in this way is not necessarily a good idea. Now that we've taken a look at some of the specifics of examples here with these balls, let's take a look at some of the paintings that we've done in our program to show you some of the ways that we have created balance in our paintings by being able to establish the composition in a variety of ways. We may not be dealing with sponges or balls and things like that in our paintings, but we do have various objects in the painting that allow us to draw attention in one way or another. This is a good example of composition that was used in a way to draw the eye from one part of the painting to the other. The fence that is created here with the barbed wire goes off the page. It can give you some sense that there's something else over here. If the fence had been shorter and non-existent over here, that would give you that sense to do that. But because the fence is long and also goes from thick to thin, this draws your eye through the page into this section of the painting, which then naturally will draw your eye to the two trees here, which reach over into this section of the sky, which brings you back here, and guess what? Brings you back to the fence. So this particular composition gives you a circular kind of a feel that your eye stays within the painting. And even though there is not a lot of stability in the painting because of a rock solid something in the middle, this does give you some stability because it allows your eye to wander completely through a circular pattern through the painting. This is composition that works well with this painting. In a similar pattern here, like the fence, we have this bird which is positioned in the painting. And because of the way the bird is angled and positioned in the painting, it also gives us a feel that our eye is drawn here immediately to the bird, but because the wing is clipped down to here, it brings our eye down to the tree line here, which brings us back up over here, which brings us back up here to the bird. So again, this circular pattern here gives us a feel of stability, even though we don't have an item directly in the middle of the painting. Again, we're not dealing with balls, but we often deal with the circle for the sun. And where we put the circle for the sun has bearing upon what we want to create for the painting. By putting the circle in the sun towards the lower half of the painting and in the middle we get stability. But because it's in the lower half of the painting, we get the feel that the sun is either setting or possibly rising. More likely we get the feel that it's setting. If we wanted the feel that the sun was rising, we would have positioned the sun instead of down here. We would have put it towards the top half to give the feel that it's rising in the morning. By putting the sun down here at the bottom of the painting, we get the feel that it is a lowering sunset. When we look at this particular painting, we can see that there is a sense of balance here because one set of the tree line here on this side almost mirrors the other side here, leaving the drama mostly here in the middle of the painting. And that's fine. A variation of composition would be this, where now we have all of the heaviness here. Even though there's a balance here from the top and the bottom, there is nothing over here. This gives you a sense of drama on this side of the painting here. And yet again, the negative space here on this side balances off the heavier end on this side of the painting. This is a classic sense of true balance and symmetry, because what we have here is a triangular apex here that meets here in the middle of the painting, and we have this nice triangle here with the long base that gives us a sense of security and stability. And we have an even number set of 3 trees on this side and 4 trees on this side. But even though we might have 4 on this side, with the coloring in the area, it still remains balanced. This is another example of balanced composition. Even though we have a very small area up at the top for the horizon line being towards the top half of the painting, the rest of these horizontal lined areas create a very good sense of balance for this painting. Composition does not always need to be symmetrical. Composition can also be achieved by having a balance in the various shapes and sizes of the objects in your painting that balance each other out. Even though we have one large leaf on this side of the painting and nothing the same size on the other side to balance things off, we have these 3 leaves here which are about the same mass area as the one large leaf over here, which does give us the sense of balancing things out. We have these 2 little leaves over here, but you'll notice we have nothing but an empty space up over here. Believe it or not, the empty space with these 2 leaves also gives a sense of balance with this composition. So most of this business concerning composition might not come to play in your paintings because you're just following along with the directions that we give you. In cases where you decide that you have expanded your horizons and you're going to begin to do paintings on your own, thinking about the composition is something that you want to consider when you put your painting together. Usually you want to consider this before you even start painting by having a concept and the composition before you get started. Here's an example of a painting that is part of our program where you might have to think about composition in your painting. Whereas you can see that we positioned the tree here in the lower part of the painting, and you can follow along to put your tree in the painting in the same way, you may find that you might accidentally have made your tree a little bit larger than what we have done over here, at which point the canopy of the leaves might end up starting to line up with this area here. And in my personal opinion, from years of experience, that would be problematic because you want to keep those two things separate. What you might want to do then is, if you accidentally made the tree bigger, was to expand the tree even larger so that the canopy of the tree is up here in this area so that it does not cross over or line up with this part of the horizon line. This has been Tuesday's Tip. We hope that this has been helpful for you as you continue your work in our art program.